And this is accessing, right? We're going from the lower realms to more of our heart chakra, throat chakra, and our third eye. Prayer, devotional guidance, astrology and natal chart readings, which is what I do with my clients and will do with the Barefoot Golfer as well. Knowing your big three in astrology is a great tip. So your sun, your moon, and your rising signs, those give you immense clues, right? It's the trifecta of your divine design. Human design, ritual and ceremonies, right? Like moon cycles. Women, we are attuned to the lunar cycle, but we go according to the Gregorian calendar, which we've been disconnected from our feminine cycle over centuries from our core, right? You think of the medicine woman back in the day. And then crystal therapy, crystal sacred objects, which I have all over my desk. And I'll just show you one. And I hold them sometimes when I need to feel the energy and the power. Again, these come from the earth, right? So it can be truly that simple of just infusing your energy, your aura. Your home is the best place to start in enacting this sort of feng shui. Step 5, I'm going to try to not talk too much and go through this quickly. Embodied empowerment. So that is more of kind of tuning into the body, what we call somatic, which is a very big part of being trauma informed, and my trauma therapy, which is tuning into the body. A lot of our trauma began in the mind, but it lives in our body, and we cannot undo our trauma by thinking about it, which is why, like Kia said, therapy sometimes doesn't work. Talk therapy, we have to truly release that energy from inside our bodies. And that's through somatic practice. That could be as simple as a game of golf. It could be through trauma-informed yoga, somatic yoga, breathwork, intentional practices, life design through astrology and human design, but actually living, feeling our design, and creative expression. What I'm doing right now, speaking, art, dance, music, physical manifestation of expression of what's truly in your heart and mind. And lastly is maintenance and expansion, right? So again, having a practice, something as simple as 5 to 10 minutes a day. As I always say, repetition is the mother of mastery. So daily grounding and meditation, even with just 5 minutes a day. Aligning with the moon and the planetary cycles. Every day our moon cycles into different planets. I have an app called, oh gosh, now I forget the app. I've shown it, the full moon app. And that's how you know when we have our new moons, when we have our full moons, and just educating and enlightening yourself kind of on where we are cosmically, because it has a lot of clues as to what we might be feeling or experiencing in the moment. And validation is key, especially for those of us who have been through immense trauma. We feel like no one truly understands us, but the divine always does. We're always aligned with the divine. Shadow and inner child journaling, right? Of course, getting it out through blogging, vlogging, posting, even something for yourself if you're not ready to share it with the world. I always tell my clients, only share the pieces of your past that you feel comfortable in every moment. Again, we have to feel safe. We start with that root chakra, right? Do I feel safe? All roads to healing trauma begin with, do I feel safe? And lastly, and most importantly, is spiritual community, mentorship communities like this podcast, like Podfest, like my own communities, like the Barefoot Golfer is going to be, and finding your people, your soul family. So thank you, Kia. I don't know how long I talked, but all just felt and moved through me. I always say God's spirit speaks through me. So I let it flow.
I love that. You mentioned so many things that I use in my practices.
Yes.
And I think that I asked the question, can spiritual healing really heal trauma? But I know the answer, and the answer is yes. Any one or a combination of the amazing suggestions you just made can be put into sort of a plan, your healing strategy, right? And I think as a coach, I've coached thousands of people by now since 2019 through an online academy and privately. And what I understand is that a good strategy is the key. So obviously you have to find what works for you. So a mentorship or a coach to sort of hold your hand through that process is going to expedite things exponentially. Obviously you can do it on your own, save the money, do it. But if you can, if it is financially feasible for you, get a mentor and a coach, and you will move through this process so much faster.
Yeah.
So if speed is what you want, then that's how you do it. But honestly, one of my favorite things that you mentioned was frequency. I do a lot of sound healing
Hmm.
myself. I love to go to sound baths. I love to meditate. I love to do breath work. I love to do somatic stretching, and or yoga, um, every night, because it really just does help me. I also live with a chronic illness. And so with mine, and many, if you don't know by now, if you haven't been watching Hot Topics Live, if this is new to you and you've made it this far, you may not have heard that I am a survivor of child abuse. And so there's a lot stored in my body. Fact, in 2016, I had a kidney removed. Believe what you want, but I happen to believe that we store trauma in our organs. And
Yes.
I believe that yes, the kidney failed scientifically, but one of the reasons that it was weak my entire life and eventually failed was because of the stored trauma and my inability to move through that trauma and get it out of my body. And so for me, what you're saying about advocating for getting that trauma out is so important, to prevent all sorts of illness and disease. And in fact, one of the biggest healing factors for me was art therapy when I started to paint. Really was, and I journal as well. So like all of these ways to get it out of your body. And when you said, maybe you don't want to talk to someone, you have to figure out a way. One of the suggestions that I would make to add on to all of the wonderful suggestions you made and advice you gave would be a video journaling. So maybe you don't want to write, although writing is very, very powerful, but a video journal has oftentimes helped me in the way of, it's like my past self talking to me, whereas I can get out the emotions and I'm talking to myself. And how you would do this is, you can do it in the mirror too, but I find sometimes video is more powerful. And you can record a video on your phone, on your device, to yourself using Zoom or whatever you want to use, and then you can watch it back later, right? You can also give yourself a pep talk that way,
Yes.
and even a voice note, and you can play it back to yourself, and you will just talk to yourself like you would talk to someone you love, like a best friend or a parent or a family member that you absolutely adore, like your favorite person ever. And you're going to talk to yourself like that and give yourself a pep talk. Or you're going to pull your heart out and cry and get all your emotions out on video. And then what you do is, a couple of weeks later, you're going to go back and watch that video, right?
Mhm.
And then you can record a new video on what you've learned, how you've come through it. Sometimes for me, I'll go back a year and watch an old video, and it will be so powerful that I need to make a new video to talk about that video and how far I've come, or what I learned from the time of that experience. And I find it to be super healing, a great tool to like help you move through these traumas and all of the things that are happening. And sometimes you are experiencing an emotion or a feeling that you're not comfortable with anyone else knowing, but you can share it with yourself.
Yeah, yeah, that's I meant when I said vlogging, but also I just want to add, for someone like me, like I'm just talking about my own personal, because I have a lot of highly sensitives in my community that maybe are
Mhm.
not comfortable with video. You mentioned the voice memos.
Mhm.
That was key for me, especially when I first started my business. Like I would go on walks and it would be like either therapy or ideas would come up and I would speak into it and I could hear myself, but like watching myself on a camera might be a little bit
Truly.
not now. I mean, I've evolved a lot in my journey, but I'm just kind of going back to the beginning. Like just hearing yourself has so much power, especially, I mean, and that's my divine design is I have a very defined throat chakra, and in human design, my throat is very well defined and most of my gates are in my throat, which is probably why I talk a lot. But to me, voice is so powerful. But when you hear yourself speak back, some of us have uncomfortability like seeing ourselves back, but if we are looking in the mirror, but it is a beautiful practice. And again, a way to heal that wound if that is something that triggers us. But starting with the voice is incredibly powerful as well. I have my clients do that a lot because a lot of them are very camera shy. So I kind of invite them initially to do the voice memo. So
I feel that when I started this journey, and I landed on a podcast, I never knew that this was going to be part of my journey. You couldn't have told me that I would be a podcaster ever. Like, first of all, when I was a kid, it didn't exist. It's not something like, when I grow up, I want to be a podcaster.
No, me neither.
I didn't exist. So I would have never in a million years thought I'd be a coach. I would have never in a million years thought that I would be podcasting. So when I started this journey, I was going through London Real Academy, where I coached. I ended up being a coach there for some years. And we were required to do a video several times a week and post it to a private Facebook group. So that is how I got over my fear of and disdain, because I hated to look at myself on camera. I hated the way I sounded.
Yeah.
I actually
a lot of people do.
had a vocal coach for 3 years so that I could bear the sound of my voice. So this is where we're coming from, right? And I do think so mirror magic is what I like to call it, is something that was also really difficult for me. And then I realized that, you know what they say is your eyes are the window to your soul. And so part of that magic is looking into your own eyes. And if you don't like to look in the mirror, I feel you. I didn't either. What I learned was find something about yourself that you do like. Maybe it's your eyebrows, maybe it's your hair, maybe it's your ears, maybe it's your lips. Find that thing and focus on that thing, right? And then speak love into yourself. And then when you can, look into your own eyes and speak love into yourself. Right. And regularly, if it has to be 50 times a day, every time you pass a mirror, stop and do it. Like, it doesn't have to be an hour-long thing. It could be just a couple minutes or a few seconds, but do it repeatedly for weeks, for a long time, at least 90 to 100 days. Okay. Till it becomes a habit. Right. And you're going to speak love into yourself. And I promise you this. Okay. And you can drop a comment if you try this and tell me if it works or doesn't work, or if I'm right or I'm wrong, because I'm going to promise you this, that if you do this, like I just said, to do it for 100 days minimum, you will feel a shift inside yourself. You will feel more love towards yourself. And then that ability to